So I just watched Preach's video on the Covenants and how he calls them shackles, or what could be shackles. And I just want to make a quick video while I'm waiting for Rust Feather to spawn so I can get my mount finally. And just briefly talk about why I think what Blizzard is doing is a good idea. And so I'm just providing a opposite viewpoint of him, which he says they're bad and constrictive, and he doesn't want them. He doesn't know anyone that wants them. And so I guess I'm the opposite of that. So let's begin. First of all, the overarching theme for this video is going to be that an RPG is an RPG. And for the longest time in WoW, people have been hoping and begging Blizzard to put the RPG back in MMORPG. Okay. I'm trying to think of the last time a choice like this actually mattered, and I honestly can't think of one. In Legion, we had the class halls, which they were tied to your class as a whole, so that didn't really count. And then in WoD, I can't think of anything. In MOP, I can't think of anything. Cataclysm, no. I mean, honestly, this really does go back to vanilla when you first made your very first class, race, faction, your very first character. And that's where this is really interesting to me, in that this choice that we're going to make in Shadowlands, presumably, and as far as we know, this is going to be the most important choice we make as a player for our characters since we made them. So think about when you chose your class, think about when you chose your race and your faction. That's a big decision. And of course you can make other ones and you can make alts, but for the most part, this is what you are going to be in WoW. This is what you're going to play. And since then, there's been nothing. And finally, Blizzard is putting something in the game that actually matters, just like that. You pick a covenant, and that's it. Except that's not it, because you can actually change. I mean, people are like freaking out that you can't change, but you can change. If you really want to follow the meta, you're going to have to put in the work, unless you happen to pick the one that's meta at that point in time. So yeah, your choice is going to matter. And I've made a whole little list of notes here while I was watching his video. So choices matter. And I wrote down that just like classes and race and faction, that choice matters. I guess in that case, you can pay real life money to change that, or put in the time to level a new class, or even use a boost, I guess. But it's still sort of the same kind of deal where it's permanent. Next, I want to touch on the fact that this choice is more than picking a spell. It's more than picking a spell. I know that's what everyone's talking about, because that's what matters the most in the end game, is your DPS, your tank abilities, your healing. Oh, Rust Feather's up. Your healing abilities. Sorry, I just lost thought because, I'm going to get my mind finally, which is awesome. Yeah, it's more than a spell. So you have transmogs, you have your sanctums, you have renown, which we don't really know a whole lot about, which I assume when you switch, you're going to lose that renown and probably go negative somehow. That's just my guess. And then you have the whole entire thematic of the Covenant. So for me personally, when I was watching that live stream, I was really drawn to the Venthyr. They just look so cool. And then when Ian was talking about basically the gameplay specific sanctum things you can do, like I didn't get it, of course not. In theory, you get a host a party and like be fancy and all that stuff, and then like the Kyrians have some kind of like boss rush kind of deal, and that stuff. I was drawn to Venthyr through that, and if you go on to read the abilities and everything, Venthyr is not what I should be choosing, honestly, because as a rogue, Venthyr clearly looks like a PvP covenant, and Night Fae looks like a raid covenant. The MALDRAXXUS, they look like a Mythic Plus covenant, and then the Kyrian for rogues looks like it could be a mix. You could do it for anyone. But my main point is that you're making a choice more than just for the ability that you're going to get. And I hope that's clear to everyone. Like, this is essentially, for all intents and purposes, a secondary faction for us, even though they're not really factions. And just like a faction, I mean, I don't think you would choose playing Horde versus Alliance because of a racial ability. Again, for most people. But at the top highest tier, people will do that. And that's fine. That's okay for that to be that way. So it's more than an ability that you're choosing. Don't choose a Covenant just based on an ability. Also, because of that, people are talking about how they don't want to pick the wrong one because it's not going to be the most DPS or whatever. Guess what? Those abilities are going to be better and worse throughout the expansion. You're talking about wanting a flavor of the month ability for your class, your Covenant, all the time. That's just not going to work out. Unless one is like incredibly super OP, in which case it'll be nerfed. Again, the Venthyr comes to mind for me because of their teleportation. People are afraid that the Venthyr teleport is going to break Mythic Plus, and that you have to be Venthyr to run Mythic Pluses, and it's going to be Venthyr only groups. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Next, I want to touch on being the top of the top, being a Mythic Raider, being a gladiator in PvP, being a person that runs like plus 20s and Mythic Pluses. Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to be the best of the best. And in order to do that, you're going to have to switch probably quite a few times, and like more than once throughout the expansion. That's just something you're going to have to get over if you want to be the top of the top of the top. For most people, don't worry about that. Like, seriously, unless you're a top, I don't know, 50 guild in the world, don't worry about it. It's not going to make that much of a difference. And then last thing real quickly I want to point on is that we have no clue what's going to happen in this expansion. We have no idea what 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 could be. And I guarantee you that Covenants will have a big part of that in the storyline. I'm guessing that at some point all the Covenants will come together to fight some biggie baddie. And in that case, maybe we'll have more access to all the different Covenants, even the ones we didn't choose initially. So yeah, I just wanted people to really think about what's going on in this expansion. This choice does matter. It does. It's very important. I hope Blizzard makes it clear that when you're picking one, it's that important. Otherwise, people are just going to rush through and click like whatever. They're finally putting the RPG back in RPG. That's the big thing for me. Finally. I mean, I've been waiting for this personally for a very long time. And I'm excited that my choice will carry the weight for who knows how long. Could be the whole expansion, could just be the first patch. Again, we don't know. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say before I start talking in circles. Yeah, thanks for watching.